Here we are for our 23.5 viewers. Not that many, I'm afraid. We waited a little bit extra longer to see if more people will tune in, but it seems like you are taking it easy. Just the light, the light.
I like the light on my face.
Well, I think you should put it in front instead than... So welcome everybody to the Leo Zagami show, 30 minutes past the hour. Please share this video now. Make it viral. How's that?
Please.
Because otherwise we are a little bit, you know, I mean, thinking that you don't deserve us. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot start the show without our great team track. No?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we are, Leo Zagami and Christy Zagami, every Saturday for a rundown of all the geopolitical matters and much more. In this end time scenario, we like to call the end times or apocalypse chronicles.
Christy and Leo and Christy's apocalyptic chronicles.
Okay.
Chronicles of the apocalypse.
Okay.
Maybe someday somebody will find a video. There's no video.
It says the sound is bad. There is an echo. Let's stop everything here. Can't seem to get it right today. Somebody said the sound was not good. Is the sound good or bad? Let us know if the sound is good or bad, because at times we have some problems with our StreamYard service. It seems like at times we can get some faulty audio. You know, it looks like it's submerged and then it re-emerges. So just let us, somebody said it's good. Okay, that's great. Okay, so at this point we can start again with the sound. Somebody said bad room noises. Well, that is unfortunately not a problem, though. We will try to see if we can diminish this. I think we should straighten up the camera. Okay, sounds good. We are back Saturday, the 19th of March of the year of the Lord 2022. And we have some breaking news directly from the leozagami.com website. Yes, because I've just published my latest...
That's why we're late.
That's why we're late. I had to urgently publish this article. And by the way, we were not around on Tuesday, Christy.
Thursday.
Oh, Thursday.
Thursday.
We missed the show on Thursday?
Yeah.
Okay, so from now on, guys, we will definitely try to be with you on Thursday and Saturday. For Tuesday, we will be more flexible the rest of the week. You have to understand that, of course, I have to continue my activity as a journalist and a writer, and that means that at times I need to be off duty with the Leo Zagami show, or at least make it more flexible. So we decided that because there is some people who really enjoy this show and really want us at least 3 times a week in their houses, then we will still make these shows, but at a more, it's going to be more fluid. It's not going to be a gender fluid. Yeah, don't worry about that. No. It's going to be fluid in the sense that with the time schedule, depending on the time schedule, or we will be able to go on in the morning, in the evening, on Tuesday, or maybe change and go on Monday or Wednesday if we can't manage on Tuesday. So there is going to be some changes. regarding the timeline of our show. That's because also we really need to have your support here to spread the news. We are back because since our main YouTube channel has been eliminated, we really get very few views, and this is starting to become a little bit depressing and not really encouraging for us. Instead, I get my Italian viewers to always tune in whenever, at whatever time. They always
just like find,
they find me, they find the show, they follow the emergency channels rule. And that's why you need to understand one thing. Let's go to the website, because we said that we have an article, but we also have something we need to remind you. How to find the Leo Zagami show. If the channel gets blocked or removed, you can simply go on this icon. Press it, you see, it's red here. When you go close to it, it becomes red from white. Then you click, and then you are automatically on the channel that is broadcasting the show.
And even if you're subscribed, I noticed that the YouTube doesn't show the videos coming up. So I'm trying to view the camera. Okay, so videos don't show up on YouTube ever. Not even I'm in the show, and it's not even on my thing. So
okay, that's it. It's there all over the place. Okay, so okay, let's go and analyze this article. Okay, you don't need to move. I'm moving the article around. Okay, so Russia threatens Italy with irreversible consequences and the diplomatic role of the Knights of Malta. Now, this is a very important article to understand what is happening in Europe right now, because first of all, last year there was an important meeting of the representative in Russia of the Sovereign Order of Malta, who is a member of the former Italian royal family, Aimone di Savoia-Aosta. Now, first of all, most of the Savoyas, after they lost the role in the monarchy, was deposed here in Italy. There in Italy. Now I'm in America. So in Italy, in 1946, they chose the Republic. This was, of course, the will of the Democrats here in America. They hijacked the monarchy and they kicked out the royal house. They should have simply kicked out the royal house and not the whole institution, because, of course, what you have now in Italy is not the Republic on which we stand here in the United States, but is a group of criminals. The Savoy, in the meantime, depended from other forms of income. So they became gradually entrepreneurs, mostly in the weapon business, but also in Russia. And part of the Savoia family has always been very close to them. Aimone di Savoia, what did he do? He met with a guy called Alexei Paranov. Alexei Paranov, who is the first European department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation. They had actually created this new department for the relations with the European Union, let's say, member states of the European Union. They discussed various things, amongst them the 30th anniversary of the re-establishment of official relations between the Order and Russia, which took place, strangely enough, in 2022, because it was back in 1992 that after the Soviet Union, the Knights could go back to Russia, because, of course, during the communist times, they didn't have any relationship with the Knights of Malta. Now, the Knights of Malta, for those who don't know it, are independent from the Vatican. They kind of have their own state. I know. Today's all over the place, this shit. Well, it kind of like tends to be 70s.
Well, this light on my face is horrible.
Okay, first of all, move it.
Which way?
No, the other way. The other way. Yes. Move it over there. That's it. Now let's see how it is. Now you see how it. Let's see how it is. How it is.
I hate that light on my face.
How it is now, Christy? So you like it or you don't like it?
I don't know.
Now you don't like it because it's in your face.
Dang it.
Guys, today it's a very different kind of a day. It's an hypersonic day. Huh? Whatever.
It's just because you did this article. Like, we were going on in 5 minutes, and then you just like did an article.
I know, but because it's very important for me, of course, to publish articles. I remember my main business is being a journalist and a writer. I am borrowed to this show, which, by the way, should be a little bit more successful after 20 years and more on the internet, being somebody who exposes the New World Order, having 50 people watching us. It's really sad, and it kind of like really.
I don't think people are interested.
They're not interested?
Not in the live show. Maybe they should see it afterwards. But even like the last video we did, we didn't get any views on it.
Really?
Yeah, not really. Like 1,000 altogether.
Why is that? People losing interest?
Maybe. Maybe they should share it.
Maybe we should share it more. Well, whatever. We will continue. We will try, at least, for those people who at least enjoy the show.
I know there's some that enjoy it, so we do it for them.
Yes, yes.
That's why we're here.
Yes.
We're few, but great.
That's
all that matters.
Okay, so let's go back into the article I just wrote. Things changed, though, recently. And, of course, we don't really know the current position of the Knights of Malta in the conflict that is ongoing. But Alexei Paramov warned Italy yesterday of irreversible consequences. He did it through the RIA Novosti agency on behalf of the Russian Federation, saying that he's preparing for a response to the illegitimate sanctions imposed by the United States and the European Union. What does that mean? It means that finally Russia might start using their energy, their energy supplies to Europe, gas and oil, as a way to counteract these sanctions. Citing French Economy Minister Bruno Le Maire's statement on the EU plans to wage a total economic and financial war against Russia, Paramov said, "We don't want the logic of the minister's statements to find supporters in Italy and provoke a series of irreversible consequences." So, irreversible consequences. The moment, you see, Italy at the moment is providing, there was just the other day a motion by the Italian parliament to provide Ukraine with weapons, so they lost that kind of neutrality, if you want. Now you have like a neutrality stand. Now they lost that, and they instead went into a different kind of position, a belligerent position in the eyes of Russia. So, as Paramov told Sputnik, Moscow has never used the export of energy resources as an instrument of political pressure. Until now. Russian energy companies have always fully fulfilled their obligation. They continue to do so now. But of course, things could change in Italy as well as the rest of Europe, might be left in the cold, this is what I say, for the next winter, if the Knights of Malta don't intervene, because of course we have always this intermediary, this diplomatic intermediary, which is basically the Knights of Malta. Paramov noted that Italy is very concerned about the future of energy supplies from Russia.
They use a lot of gas to cook with. That's all they use. They don't have electric like we do.
Yeah, they really use a lot of gas for cooking. Given Rome's significant dependence on Russian hydrocarbons that reaches 40 to 45%, the rejection of reliable mechanisms for transporting energy resources that have developed over many decades will have extremely negative consequences for the Italian economy and for all Italians. So he's already saying, that is like a threat the Italians should be taking very.
Been saying this.
I've been saying this for a long time. I was saying you're going to be left in the cold. You are playing with fire.
Told your mother.
At the same time, the threat of a direct confrontation with NATO and Italy has grown exponentially in the last couple of weeks, and Italy's military has been told to prepare for a possible direct confrontation. On top of that, the other day, the Italian newspaper La Stampa published basically a photo saying it was a ballistic missile thrown by the Russians on the Ukrainians in Kiev. Instead, there was a ballistic missile thrown by the Ukrainians in Donetsk. So they actually participated to this fake news situation, and look at this. I mean, it's of course incredible how one of the main Italian newspapers could play this kind of game. Watch here. La carneficina, which means like, you know, the bloodbath, all these images and stuff, but in reality it was an image, yes, of a bloodbath, but by the Ukrainians in Donetsk. So I mean,
it was a mistake.
No, it wasn't a mistake.
Why did they do that?
Listen, that was the Ukrainians killing the Russians in Donetsk, the Ukrainians who are in Donetsk. It wasn't the Russians killing the Ukrainians. It was actually the Ukrainians killing other Ukrainians who are of Russian descent. And the photo was instead used, selling it as it was the Ukrainians who were the ones. So, I mean, that is fake news, and it's not only me saying that, because, I mean, I noticed that also Paul Joseph Watson noticed that and made an article about it. So, I mean, it's obvious. I'm going to show the article that Paul did. Here we are. So, Italian newspaper denies this information despite publishing completely misleading front page photo. Italian newspaper La Stampa has denied the accusation that it engaged in its disinformation by publishing a front page of Ukrainian ballistic missile strike on Donetsk while suggesting it had been carried out by Russia. Daily news outlet promised readers coverage of Russian strike in Kiev and Lviv alongside the headline that read "The Carnage." The headline was illustrated with an image of a man covering his face, but it wasn't in Kiev. It was actually traumatized by the Ukrainians, because the man covering his face has the dead body lay around him, along with lines about traumatized children in Lviv and Kiev preparing for the final assault. Complete and utter nonsense. And the Russian embassy in Italy, you see, had denounced this whole thing, saying that they wrote about the Russian bombing without mentioning that the photo was done on the 14th of March in Donetsk. So the actual Russian embassy kind of... This is very sad for Italy that they have to participate with this kind of charade.
Did they do it? Like, did they make a mistake, or did they do it on purpose?
Well, they did it on purpose, and they actually did this magazine. La Stampa is property of some of the Italian elite. No, the Agnelli family is behind it, but then I think nowadays. It's a part of the same ownership that owns also La Repubblica. So I think it's basically the Benedetti and the Rothschilds who are behind this. But this just to show what kind of situation you have. And so that's why I thought it was very important for me to write this article, and to make sure that the international audience that I have understands that what is happening here. No? I don't know if they will or not understand it. In the full, the gravity here of what is happening is that basically also Italy's army is preparing for war against Russia. So that is something that is pretty important to denounce. So, welcome to the Leo Zagami show. We are a little bit late, but we are with you, and we showed you, of course, the latest article that you can find on leozagami.com. We are glad, of course, to have you on board, those few people that at least bother to tune in and to follow us.
It's getting more and more.
It's getting? Okay.
I have to be positive.
So, somebody, don't you work for Putin's KGB or GRU? Oh wow,
Who said
Milton.
that?
I don't know. Some idiot that obviously must be blocked. Or maybe we can just leave him because he's just a fool. I mean, of course, if I was working for Putin's KGB or GRU, I'd probably be in Russia or not be in the United States at the moment.
He doesn't work for anybody but himself.
Yes, and
He
that's
works for me sometimes, but
yeah.
Nobody's supporting us. I
Yes,
mean, except our viewers.
And not all of them, but only
Not
few.
all of them, but a couple, like a few.
Not a couple, but no, just a couple really. We don't want to give their names out because of the privacy, but we want to thank them because they're always the only ones who really encourage us to go on. And at the same time, we have, of course, this threat also of hypersonic missiles that were used lately in a struck on an underground warehouse containing rockets and ammunition in the village of Daletin. And so let's see this news, which of course is very important because this is the latest news that we are bringing. As you know, we try to bring you all the latest news, and we, of course, on top of that, comment it. And we also give the possibility of people to call in, something that we will do today, starting in 30 minutes, just to anticipate the times and to make it
We figured out something. There's like this thing that we get, like, okay, so they'll call up and they'll say really nice things to us. So, oh, you're great. We watch this show. You know, we love this show. You're great. I follow you all the time. And then, you know, oh, okay, oh, that's great. What's your question? Boom. And then they might slide into it, but, you know, then it's like trollish a bit, you know, because of, they have, you know, they're not really
so
here
what
to
happens?
Support us.
So basically you are saying that there is people.
It happened like 4 times, so.
So it's actually not something that happens una tantum, as we would say in Latin, but it happens all the time. Eh?
I think it's a technique.
It's a trollish technique. Eh?
Yeah. But we can just put the phone down and that's it. So I say don't get all, I mean, you were fine though last week. That was pretty annoying. On Tuesday, we got a bunch of callers and they started, somebody said Russia attacked the sovereign state of Ukraine. In Russia, people protesting against the war. Who is this guy? Do you work for George Soros here? Please, let's block these people. What is wrong?
I mean, we don't care with people. Here, we're not taking any stand in the war. Like
he always tells me there's no winners in war.
Yeah, I mean, and even the Pope actually reiterated this. He said yesterday that there is no winners in war, which I said, no?
Yeah.
And the Pope said it.
I think he monitors you.
He must be monitoring and copying me. So, my dear friends, there is no winners in war, of course, but it's also true that the Western way of life that we are pushing towards the East and towards Russia is not really working even for us. Here in the United States of America, we suffer every day the consequences of this decadent and unprecedented change of values, and we see now in California a bunch of homeless people treating the streets like it's their own playground, and we are really astonished by all this decadence that we have in the main cities in the United States. Just go to Chicago, just go to LA, just go to San Francisco, New York City. How can you say that the Western civilization has anything good really to bring to Russia? I mean, yes, of course, we will always say we have Netflix, we have this, we have this. I remember also that in all this there is a plan, and the plan is, and we have described it very well on Tuesday, is a plan for a greater reset. So that's how we take this whole invasion of Ukraine business as part of the plans of the New World Order, which is basically unfolding to diminish, first of all, the amount of people on this planet by 3/4, possibly, and on top of that, to make them weaker, to make them weaker by hijacking their immune system with vaccines and so on. So anybody that says Q is the plan to save the world, come on, guys. I wrote on volume 7 of my Confessions a whole chapter against the psyop of Q. And I think that people really need to understand that Q is a psychological operation headed by people who are simply taking the piss out of you. If you think that you can, and then there is people who say, oh, we will, we will pray, we will fix all of this, love and light, all this bullshit is not going to work. I'm sorry, we are well beyond that stage of things. So, I mean, I'm trying to be positive here, but we have to be also realistic, my dear friends. So to still go after Q, when Q has been proven to be a disinfo operation from all the various events that happened that didn't happen when Q said it, they
Pope
will
was
happen.
not arrested.
The Pope was never arrested. The Pope was never arrested.
He's not in Gitmo. And that's not a clone.
Yes.
And Trump is not in charge.
Yeah. No, real. I found the real ones. Trump is Q plus. Oh my God. There is people that never give up on this Q nonsense. But
who knows if Trump's even coming back? Who knows?
Who knows? Who knows? And on top of that, the fact that we have some really truly incompetent people in the White House that are playing with the nuclear power like this. I mean, it seems completely rubbish that we can still think.
And some of the things that Biden said this week.
Okay, first of all, let's see. Russia says it used hypersonic Kindle missile to attack. Now, this is already something that, I mean, these are kind of missiles that can really be dangerous, apart from the fact they can be carriers also of nuclear weapons.
What's a hypersonic missile?
It's so fast that basically by the time it can't be detected by the defense systems that you usually put in place, to defend yourself from a missile attack, because it's too fast. So let's see what's happening. Bloomberg News, of course, has been reporting it, but we have RIA Novosti, which is one of the main Russian agencies that we also cited earlier in regards to what's happening with the threat to Italy. But there was apparently, it was confirmed this morning by the majority of the news outlets that hypersonic missiles were used. And that is, of course, a matter of concern, as well as is of concern the fact that Russia wants to start using the power they actually have in Europe by just closing the gas and the oil. I mean, they can literally bring the whole continent to a still over there, especially countries like Italy. So somebody said, Q is watching. Oh, please tell him to change channel. Q is watching. Well, I'm glad that you believe in such things, but remember to get a copy of Volume 7, because Volume 7 actually has a whole chapter to make you understand what is really Q. So please get this book. It will make you maybe... Welcome everybody who are tuning in on YouTube, on Facebook. We are broadcasting on the Zagaman new channel for the Leo Zagami Show, and we're broadcasting on le canale ufficiale del Leo Zagami Show.
After what happened on January 6th.
Yeah,
I mean, how can people, can't they just from the result of what happened, a lot of those people, probably many of them, believed in Q. And some, were getting messages on their phone and doing things that Q said. And the whole thing was just one big trap. It was a big trap. So, I mean, how can you believe in Q after that? What has Q given us? I mean, right now, what has Q given us? Nothing, except lies.
And the people who believed in Q, some of them ended up in the jails of this country. after falling into that trap, which was the Capitol Hill insurrection. It's just ridiculous, you know. So that's why I wrote in this book a whole chapter here, and it's very important that people understand what is really Q and the Capitol Hill riot trap. I defined the QAnon thing as a psyop from QAnon to the metaverse, courtesy of Cyber Satan, because in reality we see that the rise of this belief that you can be some kind of tiger on the laptop and save the world by sharing videos and information, or you have some
special information that nobody has. And you're getting it from, you know, Secret Service or whatever, a special unit of white hats.
Yeah. It's the real hope has to be residing with God, and of course for Christians also with Jesus Christ, who is of course His Son, and for the Jews possibly with the Messiah that will probably show up earlier than expected, because if the Jews wait for their official timeline, I guess this planet will already be blown up by then. So that's why they are praying to anticipate the arrival of their Messiah. And the Muslims know very well that Jesus is the one who will eventually come back. So we have this expectation in the Abrahamic faith also for a strong figure that could lead us outside of this mess at one point. Definitely, if you think that politicians or idiotic lies spread by also information that might be at time true, but then, you know, you just need to put all that rubbish in and then it ruins it all. So that's why I really try to explain in this book the dangers of QAnon.
That's because people wanted to believe, you know, so bad that there was this like special thing going on with Q, and that Q was going to save the world. Everything was going to be okay, and all that crap that happened.
I mean, especially during the early stages of the pandemic, how many idiots sit on their divan thinking everybody will be arrested, all the pedophiles, people like Tom Hanks and all that bullshit. Come on, guys. It's just like, I mean, really sad to see that people can still fall for this rubbish, especially the people that for years followed me, Alex Jones, David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, who are really credible sources of information on the subject of the New World Order. It's like somebody's pointing out here on the chat, is to make them complacent. Absolutely. To make them absolutely complacent. So the military industrial complex has basically set up Q, but the effect is been devastating. Here, from my book, I want to cite QAnon is not, and this is page 43 of my book. QAnon is not, like some believers say, a military intelligence officer on your side, or a Trump administration insider, or Trump himself, but rather the contrary. QAnon supposedly represents a person or group of persons with Q clearance, a clearance level in the US Department of Energy. The shadow force acted anonymously to leak secret information to the public in codes or message boards. It revealed nothing much more than what the public in certain communities already knew, desired to be true, already believed, or wanted to believe. This may pertain to extraterrestrial disclosure, the crimes of high-level government officials. The cult developed into a political arm of US President Donald Trump, albeit separate from the administration control. It professed that Trump was fighting a corrupt group of satanic pedophiles and that mass arrests of these criminals would be carried out in secret. Guys, there is, of course, pedophile and there is Satanist on top of the pyramid. But this was completely the wrong way of fighting them. And it kind of really devastated the work that people like me or others have done for many decades. I mean, people started to believe more in Q than in people like me who have been saying the same thing for 20 years, or Alex Jones, or David Icke. And at times, Q, unfortunately, even led people like Alex and others to the errors that they themselves admitted they should have never done with supporting what happened on the 6th of January. No?
Yeah.
So I was the one that at the end of 2020 went on InfoWars and said that they will have a rude awakening if they continue to follow this rubbish. Nothing happened because simply they didn't want to believe me. They didn't want to think that what I was saying was true. They thought that there was a chance that Trump still...
It's also that guy that they had.
Then General Flynn. But here I explain also in my book about General Flynn, by his own admission, saying that the CIA created the QAnon. I mean, let's not forget, this is a statement that you can find, page 42 of my book. Flynn said on the call, I think it's a disinformation campaign that the CIA created. That what I believe now, I don't know that for a fact, but that's what I think it is. I think it's a disinformation campaign. This is what General Flynn ended up saying. So, guys, give me a break. Q opened up definitely a window of search. But then you need to have the right information, and the people who give you the right information, not these lies that you can get on the internet. That's why I always invite you to buy my book, purchase my book, because these books, these were really prophetic books. This book published in February 2019 with this symbol of the World Health Organization in the back. This book, volume 6.66, is truly prophetic. This book, volume 5, that explains all about how the actual bacteriological warfare, biological warfare instigated by the deep state, and that of course spread through China on the world. And then of course, but also the decline of the West, and how Freemasonry, all the various secret societies were infiltrated by the Satanists. And then you have Volume 4, a very important book to understand the Sabbatean Frankists, to understand their connection with the Jesuits. The Great Reject. This is the project, in fact, somebody is talking about here in the chat. Like-minded awake people, the Great Reject. We are the Great Rejects. We are the Great Reject, and that's why I invite people to purchase this book, make a photo with this book also in your house, because some people do that. I show you a picture so you can understand. People at times, you don't need to show yourself, but you can just find maybe a place, particular setup in your house. This guy, of course, purchased an Invisible Master, Volume 5 in the old edition. He likes, of course, to smoke joints because he has a big fat joint here. But he also purchased the hard copy of Volume 7, which is my first book that is also available in hard copy. So, this just so. Now, confirmed or fake destruction of biolab, and there is many labs. This is at least what the Russians continue to say. Let's see. Of course, we were talking about also Biden, and we will see Biden, how he smirks while he ignores questions from reporters before he goes to his long weekend in Delaware. Let's watch that first. Let's watch that. I mean, check out what kind of president we have here in the United States.
Mr. President, what was your message to President Xi, Mr. President? Did he agree not to resist Russia, Mr. President?
What's wrong with him?
What is wrong with him?
What is wrong with him?
Why isn't he talking?
Why is he not saying anything? Why does he have this smack on his face?
What was your message to President Xi, Mr. President? Did he agree not to resist Russia,
He has to go to the toilet, you think?
Maybe he did.
You think he had a shitter?
That happens to babies when they go to the bathroom.
Yeah?
In their diaper. I'm so bad.
Well, but I mean, he wears diapers. I mean, we all know that he wears diapers. He doesn't know how to wipe his ass.
We don't know that for a fact.
Well, he once said that in front of the cameras. So, I mean, he actually admitted it. Somebody just wiped my ass. If you remember, he said that. Okay, so at this point, though, let's go and see here. And I have video to show you that instead I wanted to show earlier, which is Russia allegedly yesterday present more evidence of the US biolab research. And it's a very in-depth accusation that the Russian Federation is doing here.
As part of the Flu Fly Away project, the Kharkov Institute of Veterinary Medicine studied wild birds as a vector to transmit avian flu. At the same time, they assessed the ways in which the transmission process could become uncontrollable, cause economic damage, and create a risk to food security. Documents show the involvement of the Kharkov Institute in the work to collect strains of avian flu viruses which have high epidemiological potential and could cross the species barrier. The Russian Ministry of Defense also has more and more new documents about the transfer of samples of blood serum from Ukrainian citizens to the territory of third countries, including to the UK, Georgia, and Germany.
But the US ambassador, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, dismissed his allegations and also described Russia's calling of today's meeting as a potential false flag effort in...
They continue to say, but there is a lot of evidence, but they continue to say, no, it's not true.
Last week, we heard from the Russian representative a tirade of bizarre conspiracy theories. This week, we're hearing a whole lot more where that came from. Things that sound like they were forwarded to him on a chain email from some dark corner of the internet. President Biden has a word for this kind of talk: malarkey.
Yes, it's malarkey. Whatever you're doing in the White House is malarkey. And I don't know who this woman is, this Greenfield. I mean, she looks horrible. I mean, whatever. She can be whatever color she wants. She's just a horrible being. And unfortunately, here we like to be on the right side of history, and America risks to be on the wrong side of history when all this is happening, because we are in front of a situation, like we said earlier, we can't side with one or the other in a war, but we're definitely not fighting the just war when we're going providing weapons to Ukraine at the moment. At least that's what I think is happening here, because when you're doing a secret transfer of weapons like the one I'm about to show you, you are definitely inspiring more confrontation with Russia and the possibility that we could even have a nuclear attack at some point. Now, when people when you go around and you say, oh, support, are you willing to do this for Ukraine? Everybody's willing to do a lot of things. But when you explain to people the reality of what will happen if, for example, we have a no-fly zone, and that might imply a nuclear confrontation with Russia, then at that point, everybody is silent. This is, though, what is happening at the moment. Convoys of military supplies moving towards Ukraine, and this is only one of the many examples. So we are escalating. One of the main things here that we have to understand is if we have to go now, Zelensky asked for peace talks with Russia. He just went on and he said, I want peace talks, I want to talk with Putin. He's obviously getting more and more scared, especially after the hypersonic attack, because he could have an hypersonic attack on his presidential palace at any moment. So he is basically scared, trying to invite the Russians to agree for a peaceful resolution, but he's not really willing to give in to the request of the Russian Federation regarding the recognition of Crimea, Luhansk, all those those two new breakaway republics. They are not really willing to accept the conditions. So, and there is also another big problem. When you are in a war and you are basically willing to de-escalate and want to arrive to peaceful talks, so the first rule is to never insult your enemy. Rambo, what do you think? Rambo agrees.
Staring.
He's staring. What is he staring? What is he saying? What is he saying?
He was being so good.
Well, because he wants to participate to the show. You want to participate to the show, Rambo? Come on, you want to participate to the show. Look how cute he is. Such a cutie!
Okay, you can come on the show.
Here we
You
are.
can be on the show. You can come on the show. Here he is. Here he is.
Oh, Rambo, dammi ti sì.
He's already.
Dammi ti papi. Dammi ti papi. Okay, so what's happening here is this. That first of all, you have to de-escalate the war of words here, because calling Putin a war criminal, this, that, and all the other is already means that you're not going to have any possible interaction. When you are basically calling the enemy an animal, you will not be able to sit down with him on a table and arrive to a peaceful resolution. So I think that first of all, the parts, especially when it comes to us here in the West, who accuse Putin of being all kinds of things, we have to understand that at the moment this guy is the president of the Russian Federation. Now, believe it or not, the majority of Russia is supporting him. Now, the West might not understand that because they don't understand the mentality of Russia. They've never been in Russia. They don't really realize what the Russians think of us and all the rest. So, somebody said, are you aware of the telephone control of Ericsson? Well, I wrote about Ericsson and in the volume 1 of my Confessions, the history of it, linked to the Illuminati. Maybe you should purchase my book, dear Molly Melody. Animals are angels. Change my mind. No, absolutely. He's definitely an angel, Rambo. Somebody said, unless you're a COVID freak, then all crazy stuff makes sense. Well, if you're a COVID freak, then probably you believe anything. And if you get maybe more than one injection, and you are getting closer to the fourth, at that point, you can believe in all kinds of fairy tales. Because at that point, when you're going into that direction, the never-ending injections, that's it. Guys, it's really a very bad situation that is unfolding here, because Dr. Fauci might resign, but before resigning, he wants to make the world known that the current pandemic is not finished at all, and that the crisis is actually lurking around the corner. So that is also one of the things that these days we have to fight, the creeping in of this news, no? Then we have other kind of news, the instrumentalization of the fact that Zelensky is a Jewish person. Now, why? Because, first of all, we have articles like this one. Purim in Berlin. Ukrainian Jews find refuge in what was once Europe's center of darkness. Now, one thing to understand, of course, these are the celebrations for Purim, which is a very important celebration, Jewish holiday. But the fact that Zelensky in any way, because then, of course, they talk about everything that, of course, implies, and undermines, of course, Vladimir Putin claims that the denazification justifies the death toll. The problem here is that the Jews in Ukraine, which is a big community, turned the other side when everybody knew that there were Nazis running around, and these Jews should be ashamed of themselves. they are Sabbatian Frankists. The modality, the way they are acting, they are Sabbatian Frankists. They might be traditional Jews, they might be even of traditional communities, but they are not in any way supporting the Jewish, the real Jewish ideals by supporting a president who is turning the other way, and including the neo-Nazis that are now defending Mariupol. Mariupol, that of course is being bombed, but the neo-Nazis that defend it are the infamous battalion, the Azov battalion, that is made of Nazis. I mean, it's a reality. It's not a conspiracy theory. This is Mariupol. So, while Mariupol seems to be more and more in the hands of the Russians, and of course the war is being lost, because in the end you can be the toughest people in the world, and you can believe that you want to defend the sovereignty of your country up to the last inch, but if you are fronting an army which is a mega army, a big army, then it's difficult, no? It's almost impossible. The comparison between the Ukrainians and the Russian army is impossible. But let's go back to a documentary that was put together and published on the February the 28th, 2014 by BBC Newsnight. The title is Neo-Nazi Threat in New Ukraine. This is like, I mean, it's not like a conspiracy theory. This is true. Check this out. BBC, not some Russian news service, the BBC said there was neo-Nazi threat in New Ukraine in February 2014, and nobody did anything to stop it, including the Jewish community living in Ukraine.
In place of the defiant speeches, the somber strains of Beethoven now ring out over Independence Square. This revolution is moving into a new phase. But amidst the flowers and the children's tributes, flashes of something more sinister. Groups of armed men strut through the square with dubious iconography. That yellow armband is a Volksangel, a German symbol used by several SS divisions during the Second World War. Far-right graffiti is appearing, daubed on the walls of the city. The people who brought down the government were overwhelmingly ordinary Ukrainians, students and doctors, workers and even families, people who simply refused to back down. But the most organized and perhaps the most effective were a small number of far-right groups. When it came to confrontations with the police, it was often the nationalists who were the loudest and the most violent. A group calling itself the Right Sector is perhaps the largest. Its members can be seen marching around Kiev in columns of about a dozen. Mostly they carry baseball bats. Sometimes they carry guns. We met these men posing for pictures outside the burnt-out remains of what was once their headquarters. I asked them about their political beliefs.
Национал-социалистская тематика иногда в некоторых людях она есть проступает. Как бы, ну, чтобы была единая нация. Но не у всех, это не заложено в основе этой организации, это у некоторых людей есть.
А у вас?
У меня лично есть.
В смысле? Объясните.
Ну, мне как бы нравится эта идея единой нации. Я хочу, чтобы...
These are Nazis. There is no justification that the West can give, but the West is still trying to justify itself. Just the other day, CNN changed their whole, they described the Azov battalion, which is part of these neo-Nazis that have then become integrated because of Poroshenko and then Zelensky in the Ukrainian army. And the Azov battalion is now defined by CNN as, rather than define them as neo-Nazis, now they define them as ultra-nationalist, right? Ultra-nationalist militia or far right. This is because, of course, you can't support a group that openly calls itself National Socialist, which is Nazism. These criminals that, like former Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko and, of course, Vladimir Zelensky, well, they have this they need to explain to us. And the Jewish community in Ukraine, which is a very big and important one, needs to explain how the hell from 2014 to 2022, they didn't do anything to oppose these Nazis. Why? Why the Rabbi of Kiev turned the other way? Why? This is something that I keep on saying in the last few weeks, and I will keep on saying until the end. As we are partly Jewish, both me and my wife, we feel that this is outrageous, that there can't be any tolerance, and that if people say that Putin is the Nazi, well, doesn't seem to be the case. I repeat, I don't want to stand on one or the other side, but I don't stand on the side of the Fourth Reich, because these people that you have seen are what I call in my new book the supporters of the Fourth Reich, of people like Klaus Schwab, who, of course, are very close to Vladimir Zelensky. What do you think about all these Nazis running rampant in Ukraine, Christy? And I
think that people are just, they don't pay attention. They don't pay attention enough, and then they don't care enough. They just don't care.
And then you have, of course, Mr. Klaus Schwab, whose father was awarded by the Third Reich and who is trying to rise the Fourth Reich, who, in this image, very clearly is shaking the hand of Zelensky here. The theater, but also what is going on is very clear, no?
Just it seems like a big game to them. Like, they're all just, I don't know, actors. And
the Fourth Reich uses ethnic Jews like Zelensky, yes, but also let's never remember, Bruce, let's never remember that, and let's never, forget.
Yeah.
I said remember.
Yeah.
No, sorry, I got it wrong there. Let's never forget that Adolf Hitler was partly Jewish. But this needs to be very clear to all the Jewish people in the world. Until they recognize that, they will not go forward. Adolf Hitler was Jewish. So, starting from that, and starting from the fact that some of the worst figures in the Third Reich were Jewish, we cannot be astonished that some of the worst figures of the Fourth Reich are of course Jewish. And this is because, as we all know, we have what Barry Kamish and what other important people called that we knew about, and that I describe in this book, the Sabbatean Frankists, the Sabbatean Frankist heresy within the Jewish world, which is something very difficult to understand for a lot of people, but definitely it's true. the Fourth Reich uses ethnic Jews as frontmen because then this will increase the possibility of defending themselves from attacks, no? And so there is Jewish people that have wanted, and Rabbi Unterman, he talks very good about a number of things, and definitely Bruce is pointing out here. I mean, I'm very glad that we have, of course, a lot of people here that know very well what it means, not only to be Jewish, but to understand also the problems in the Jewish world. Now, Jacob Frank, the connections between him and Adam Weishaupt, the connections with all the people who, of course, gave birth to communism. Karl Marx himself, a Jew, but also, in a way, an anti-Semite, who wrote a book called A World Without Jews, the guy who wrote the Manifesto of Communism. It's quite incredible that nobody really points out the anti-Semitic elements within the early stages of communism, because it's like we need to realize who was really Karl Marx. And so A World Without Jews by Karl Marx is definitely a book that needs to be read. It speaks about the religious prejudice, but at the same time, it kind of begs for a political emancipation and a move towards those values that then became integrated in the labor Zionism part of the Jewish world. Labor Zionism, which of course is a very evil part of the study that Rabbi Marvin S. Unterman made on communism and conspiracy is very important, I think, absolutely. And so it's important that the Jewish people speak out against the Jewish people who have ruined. It is interesting to note, in fact, Rabbi said about Hitler was in fact a National Socialist, in contradiction to a communist. But the thing is that we have to understand, like I explained in volume 7 of my Confessions, why did the National Socialism and Hitler's ideology fight communism? Not because they didn't actually like communism, because at the beginning they were very much socialist, National Socialists. But what happened was that at one point, people like Prescott Bush and other people who were financing the rise of the Nazis needed to oppose the Soviet Union. So they, of course, needed to oppose everything that was communist. That's how we got to this separation. The two philosophies are identical. And this is also very important to understand. The two philosophies are the National Socialists or the Communists. The two philosophies are basically identical, except that the Nazis, like Rabbi Hellman said, the Nazi fascist type of dictatorship could care less about international socialism. His own Germany, Deutschland über alles, demonstrate a more nationalist feel, and that's why the Ukrainians adopt it also, because in this way you can grow the separation between the Russian Federation and Ukraine, to push this nationalistic, aggressive, anti-communist, because then they can always say, well, Russians used to be communists, they're still communists, we have to fight them. Which is okay. I mean, the Russians, I'm not a supporter of Russia and China coming into my life, but unfortunately, this world is all corrupt. When you have a guy like Joe Biden in the White House, and you have Jen Psaki talking and not really answering questions like she usually does,
And Nancy Pelosi too. She's hard to watch.
She's hard to watch too. But let's see, Jensaki, regarding the Hunter Biden laptop, because we had here YouTube channels removed because of my old channel was removed because I spoke about Hunter Biden's laptop, and now
it's going to happen again.
No, because now New York Times has confirmed that everything on Hunter Biden laptop was actually true. So now they're actually asking Psaki for an answer regarding this.
If I may, you asked about Hunter Biden's laptop. You also, in October 2020, dismissed it as Russian disinformation. Do you stand by that assessment?
Again, I'd point you to the Department of Justice and Hunter Biden's representatives. I'm a spokesperson for the United States. He doesn't work for the United States. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Maybe people would like her more.
The New York Times has authenticated emails that appear to have come from a laptop abandoned by Hunter Biden.
Because the audio is gone. Sound problem again. Let's see if we can fix this. Yeah, can you listen to us? Can you listen to us now? Okay, guys. If you want to know the female perspective on the last
10 years.
15.
Not really.
13?
Yeah, about.
Yeah.
Gosh, we've been together for so long.
That's true. Volume 1 and 2 of Christie's Confessions of an Illuminati Princess, which is definitely
It's
two
funny.
books.
They're funny books, kind of.
They're
They're
lighter than my
very
books
light.
compared to my books. Huh?
Yeah, they're pretty light, but light reading.
Okay, so Peppermint Patty, after her, it seems that the audio went bad. It must be the Peppermint Patty feel. It didn't really work out. Now, yesterday, what happened was a meeting between Biden and China. China, though, at the same time, reminded NATO of what happened in 1999, a long time ago, guys. China's embassy was bombed by NATO and America when they were bombing Serbia with Bill Clinton, who needed the war to cover up for his Monica Lewinsky blowjob in the White House Oval Office. And that is really the Chinese back in the years when they went there to visit 2000. They went to visit the embassy. That was difficult to. I mean, you couldn't get it wrong. It was the only building of a certain kind in that place that was bombed. It was it was impossible to get it wrong. It was like. But the Chinese wanted to remember yesterday to NATO that they don't have any ethics and moral superiority, especially after what they did in Belgrade.
On the second day of his visit to Yugoslavia, the Chinese foreign minister visited the ruins of the Chinese embassy in Belgrade. The building was devastated by US jets during NATO's bombing campaign, in what the United States say was a mistaken attack. Tang Jishuan placed a wreath at the site and paid tribute to the Chinese nationals killed in the bombing. This we cannot forget, he said. This is the building which will always stay in the memory of every Chinese citizen. China supported Yugoslavia during the bombing campaign, but refused entry to Milosevic's son Marko after his father was replaced in October by the new president, Vojislav Kostunica. The minister is the first high-level Beijing official to visit the country since the fall of the former president, Slobodan Milosevic.
So this was just a rewind to go back in time and show what happened really with a very sad episode. Really, there was no reason for bombing the embassy. The Chinese actually never reacted, but of course they remembered, and they remember now that NATO plays to this act of moral and ethics superiority and they say NATO is a defensive force. So why did they went on the offensive? Why they went on bombing Serbia? That wasn't really something that will go down well in the history books. Going back to where we are now in history, you have to understand that we are a product of what happened in the past. Now, security and world order is a great chapter in this book of Henry Kissinger, which I talk about in volume 7 of my Confessions. And the interesting thing here about this part of the book, because it talks about the age of the AI, but it also talks about the conflicts and the security and world order by somebody like Henry Kissinger, who is definitely an expert. And he said that it's all, when it came down to Taiwan, and because there's a lot of talk of Taiwan today, Taiwan managed to stay independent only for one reason. If we go and study the history, it says that at the time, China, and this is something also explained by Henry Kissinger, at the time, China was not a nuclear power in the 50s. So basically, America was already a nuclear power, threatened China, and they threatened to bomb China. Eisenhower did that, President Eisenhower, the one who talked about the military-industrial complex and that we all seem to think he's a hero, but he's also somebody who used the deterrence of nuclear force to keep the independence of Taiwan. Of course, now this is a very different China in the year 2022, a different China that has nuclear bombs, that has hypersonic missiles, and they wanted to use this new achieved advantage and superiority to invade Taiwan finally. Something that they wanted to do though already a long time ago. And it seems like it was the nuclear deterrent of America that stopped them at the time. In fact, there is a whole chapter here, nuclear weapons and deterrence, which is very interesting. And it says here, during a 1955 crisis over the shelling across the Taiwan Strait, President Eisenhower, threatening the then non-nuclear People's Republic of China if it did not de-escalate, remarked that he saw no reason why tactical nuclear weapons could not be used. Just exactly as you would use a bullet or anything else. This is a citation. Nearly 7 decades later, no leader has yet tested this proposition. So it was actually President Eisenhower, the one, I repeat, that everybody remembers because he talked about the danger of the military-industrial complex, who made this kind of threat. Instead, here it says, during the Cold War, the overriding objective of nuclear strategy became deterrence, the use of weapons primarily through a declared willingness to deploy them to prevent an adversary from taking action, either by initiating a conflict or using its own nuclear weapon in one. At its core, nuclear deterrence was a psychological strategy of a negative objectives. It aimed to persuade an opponent not to act by means of threatened counteractions. The dynamic depended both on a state's physical capacities and intangible qualities, the potential aggressor's state of mind and its opponent's ability to share it. That's why and everybody, even small countries, like smaller countries like South Africa, but also France, Great Britain, they all got their own nukes, just because, not because they will be able to literally defend themselves at the same way of the big countries like Russia or America did with their defensive system, but more as a way of saying we can inflict a lot of damage before we go down. So just don't mess with us. No, this is so this deterrence seeming so it's could have, of course, consequences. And it talks here about the strategies, the unique strategies that went on in the nuclear era. A Soviet advantage across Western Europe was held in check by the prospect, however remote or abstract, that the United States would use nuclear weapons to arrest the attack. Once the Soviet Union crossed the nuclear threshold, the principal purpose of both superpowers, nuclear weapons, increasingly became deterring the use of those weapons by the other side. The existence, though, here, of survivable nuclear capabilities, that is, nuclear weapons that could be launched in a counterattack following an adversary hypothetical first strike, was relied upon to deter nuclear war itself. And it's achieved the objective with respect to conflict among the superpowers, which is now very close, though, because now we are not really realizing that calling a thug, a criminal of war, a monster, an animal, Vladimir Putin, and not the everyday folk or the journalists, but the people in the Congress, this is, of course, increasing the possibility that we are going to be blown off the face of this planet. So the possession of these arsenals did not deter non-nuclear states like China, Vietnam, Afghanistan from challenging the superpowers, because they still did. This is another interesting, nor it did stop Central and Eastern Europeans from demanding autonomy from Moscow. During the Korean War, the Soviet Union was the only nuclear power beyond the United States, and they later possessed a decisive advantage in the number of weapons and means of delivery. Yet American policymakers refrained from using them, opting to suffer tens of thousands of casualties in world. So there was the possibility of using these weapons, but nobody ever used them. So they have only become like a strategy of tension too. Now we have, like I said, the hypersonic, for example. The Chinese have experimented some of the most sophisticated hypersonic missiles that could carry nuclear warheads, and they could blow us in the matter of seconds. So here it says, and I go back to this book because, I mean, it's written by Henry Kissinger, amongst other people and other experts, so it's not just any kind of book. The United States threatened to respond to any assault on nuclear convention with massive nuclear escalation. Yet a doctrine designed to turn any conflict, however minor, into Armageddon proves psychologically and diplomatically unattainable, as well as partially ineffective. In response, some strategies propose doctrines that will permit the use of tactical nuclear weapons in limited nuclear war. Now, that is the tactical nuclear weapons is the ones that Vladimir Putin wants to use. The tactical ones are not a missile that start and can be detected, are called tactical. They can be used, of course, carried in a truck and deployed on a short range and blow a whole city away. And they are actually 10 times more powerful than Hiroshima and Nagasaki kind of weapons already. So they are tactical, they are mobile, they are not missiles. So some people said that the UFOs that have been intervening, I wrote about it in volume 2, at times to shut off the nuclear missile facilities. This happened in the past since they appeared in the Cold War, that the UFOs intervention demonstrated that we are overseen by creatures from other worlds or from other dimensions. But the problem here is that a tactical nuclear weapon is not the kind of weapon that can be stopped by an alien force, if that's the kind of thing you will hope for. Because some people hope for, but the UFOs will never, or aliens or whatever, will never let this happen. No, the tactical ones work in a different way. It says here, the United States distributed its weapons geographically and constructed a triad, land, sea, and air of launch capabilities, ensuring that even a surprise first strike by an adversary will not prevent the United States from mounting a devastating response. The Soviets reportedly explored the use of systems designed to be capable, once switched on by human users, of detecting an incoming nuclear strike and disseminating launch orders for a counterattack without further human intervention. And the other day, me and Christy watched a movie, War Games.
It gave me a nightmare.
It gave you nightmares. Now,
I woke up and I said, global thermonuclear war. And then I was up for like 3 days, so.
Now, War Games is a film that we all have seen in the 80s.
Wait, I want to say something.
Yes.
And then it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and all the birds were chirping outside. That's really what woke me up from my sleep of my nightmare about nuclear war. And they were all chirping in the middle of the night. Okay, and it's not really normal for birds to chirp in the middle of the night. So then I thought it was over.
I like the fact that this movie, War Games, sees the artificial intelligence element, which is present in that computer, Joshua, as well as, of course, the fact that in the end, the total annihilation, destruction of humanity is something that the computer, the artificial intelligence decide that it's there's no winner in the end. You remember it says there is no. I played this game, but in the end there is no winner. Let's go into what is known as the mutual destruction strategy here. Here we have mutual destruction strategy. It's a doctrine of military strategy and national security policy in which a full-scale use of nuclear weapons by 2 or more opposing sides will cause the complete annihilation of both the attacker and the defender. See preemptive nuclear strike and second strike, based on the theory of deterrence, which holds that the threat of using strong weapons against the enemy prevents the enemy use of those same weapons. The strategy is a form of Nash equilibrium. Nash equilibrium. Now, this is also an important, it's a game theory, but the Nash equilibrium is also been very important in this strategy of assured, that kind of assured a sort of equilibrium for a long period of time. But that film, in a way, Christy, it gave you the creeps.
Everything's giving me the creeps.
And why is that?
Because I'm just really, I believe that God will intervene, but it's going to be a mess.
But there is going to be a bloodbath on planet Earth when you have a bunch of idiots that are not really in any way, no?
Yeah. It's really difficult every day.
It was definitely.
I don't go through my day just pretending that nothing's going on. I mean, I wake up and I think about it. I try to be positive, but I do try to stay positive, and I'm going to try to do that more and not. I'm just going to try to keep my mind clear of everything. So just stay in the moment and not try to think of anything, because really it's God's plan, and we just all have to have faith and pray, because the planet is beautiful and I don't want it to blow up.
And at this point, we can also hear the opinions of our viewers, no, Christy?
That made me cry. I don't want to do this.
What made you cry?
Just all of this. It's hard for me to do the news.
Yeah, this is a very sensitive
individual.
individual.
It's bothering me, all of it, and nobody seems to care.
Following,
I mean, it's like some people care, but like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it phases a lot of people where we're at right now and how, you know. Anyway, just pray.
In 1991, but mostly, let's go back to the anti-ballistic missile treaty of the 1970s that eventually led, and this was, of course, just the moment in which the Soviet Union collapsed, to the Strategic Arm Reduction Treaty known as START. And that is really very important, because here we should have really followed up on these treaties between Washington and Moscow. Instead, there was a complete interruption of such treaties, a complete interaction, a complete, how you say, end of the interaction between the two superpowers, and the nuclear weapons presented policymakers with two persistent riddles: how to define superiority and how to limit inferiority. But there is, I repeat, no superiority in destroying the planet. There is rather a sense that we can no longer live like when Putin said, without Russia, the world is not worth living. It's not worth carrying on the life on this planet. So here we have to be very analyzing very much the words of Vladimir Putin. He's saying, okay, fine, you want to carry on with this war on Russia, well, we're going to blow up the whole planet. This is basically, no? Christy.
I think God will intervene. I don't think it's going to blow up. I don't think the planet's going to blow up.
Well,
in the end, then
of course,
Jesus is going to come back, but it's going to be like horrible up until then. But we all have to keep faith and pray.
But also there has to be a sense that when this end time scenario, which is already unfolding, because it is already unfolding, will manifest on the world, you can't expect it to be an easy thing without a bunch of people getting killed all over the place. I mean, of course, I encountered this meme, which I would like to share with our audience here. And of course, we need to get to the phone calls because it's getting quite late. But the Bible is literally unfolding in front of the whole world right now. It's time to get right with God. That is very important, I think. This meme really says it all, no?
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna give the possibility for people to call in. Please try to be respectful. We had a little bit of trollish phone calls the last time. I mean, I understand that we opened the lines and anybody could call in, but at least in this moment of time, I don't think that being a troll, it's a really nice thing. I think actually that this demonstrates that really this world maybe partly deserves to go to hell if we have people like trolls who don't understand where we stand right now. I mean, the problem, earlier this morning, speaking with one of our friends here, who is on the chat, he was telling me, you know, I hope that things then will change for the better and stuff. The majority of people, though, you have to understand, unfortunately, still believe in the fairy tales that they are fed by the mainstream news, by Hollywood, and so on. A lot of people haven't talked about from Hollywood against Russia directly, though. Have you noticed? There is not Robert De Niro or these people.
They all go to Russia. They went to Russia.
They went to Russia. They were very much mingling in Russia, getting the money from the Russians. Russians finance also a lot of movies, and they're definitely not gonna go against China. If war with China erupts tomorrow morning because of Taiwan, Hollywood is gonna stay completely silent on the topic, and we're gonna finally have to understand that Hollywood needs to be retaken through a method that was unfortunately experimented under McCarthy, the famous we have to go after the communists, basically. That's it. And it's not going to be an easy thing, because Hollywood is an important tool of propaganda. We can't just let it happen. Okay, guys, I've opened the phone line. So the lines are open. For those who want to call. Hello, welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Who am I talking with?
Hi, my name's Vicky.
Your name is?
Hi, Vicky.
Okay, Vicky, where are you calling from?
New York.
Okay, New York City?
New York.
No, not the city.
Newark.
Newark.
No, New York, just outside of the city.
Okay, outside the city. New York State. I know, because Christy's from New York City, so she maybe would like to know more about where you're calling from, being from around there. Okay, so any questions for us today? Do you enjoy our show?
Yeah, I like you guys' show. I try and catch it every time.
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I just wanted to say to you guys, don't let the trolls bother you. I watched Tuesday's show and it bothered me. So I can only imagine how it bothered you guys.
Thank you very much for saying that. We have to resist the trolls, but it's not always easy. At times, you can brush them off with a smile, but when we are in front of a situation like what we are living these days, I think that these trolls are really demented people who have some serious psychological
problems. Watching right now.
Yeah, probably watching us. But thank you so much for supporting us and for calling in.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just wanted to say too that I know you guys are believers, and it says in 2 Timothy 3 that it's going to get a lot worse during the end times. So just I guess all we can do is pray and believe in Jesus and wait for his return.
And prepare. Did you get this book?
No, I haven't gotten it.
Please.
Money's been really tight for me.
Okay.
So,
well, don't worry. But what I try to explain in this book, just in a nutshell for you, is also the concept of a great reject. Just find like-minded people like you and try to abandon the big cities and form communities that can withstand the imminent fall of our society in chaos. Because on your own, you're not going to make it. And so find other like-minded people that with you can help you out. Okay?
All right. Yeah, I got to do that. All right. Thanks, guys. Just hang in there, okay?
Thank you for calling, Vicky. Very sweet. Very nice caller. We will, of course, open up for a couple more calls. We are broadcasting a little bit after our usual time here because we started late. So here we are with more phone calls. For those interested, the phone number is, of course, here on the screen, and it's +1 970 577 6369. I repeat, and please, okay, just a second, because unfortunately what happened was that I should have done this off, and I will. Yes, if you want to call, please repeat the call if you try to call now, because I had one other device on, and so it created some problems here. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Who am I talking with?
Hi, it's Rob from FEMA Region 10 again.
Oh, no.
I really enjoyed the show yesterday. It brought to mind some more questions, but I think it's related to what you're talking about with getting self-sufficient. And my ancestors were Mennonites and Quakers. And I was curious what your thoughts were about the Society of Friends and Ben Franklin, because they're also ancestors as well. So one of your thoughts about that community.
Well, all these communities, as you know, the Mennonites and the Quakers, especially the Mennonites, acted I think, in a very positive way during the pandemic. And I think they definitely have in their DNA a survival outside of the schemes and the chains of distribution of this society. We are depending on on a distribution chain that could be interrupted at any moment. So for me, these forms of community are definitely still to cherish and value, even if they might be connected to a different time and with different values. They seem to have very clear ideas, especially when it comes to the Mennonites and they're wanting to oppose at every cost smartphones, for example, now in their society. I think that is a very positive thing. I mean, the fact that you can say no to the smartphones because you know that it's not the phone that can actually, I mean, the phone itself, but I, for example, don't have any apps on my phone. And I do, I mean, the only app maybe I have is Skype, maybe sometimes, but that's it. Because I don't want to interact, even when I interact on social networks, I use the computer. And I do that because I don't want to stand all the time on the phone, but also because I don't want to extract the artificial intelligence on what are my, how you say, my life habits and stuff, because that's what they're doing, you know, they're using these devices to trace all our habits and to then use them for their own commercial or for their own manipulation schemes against us. So I'm definitely positive that keeping everything that is smart outside of our life, including a smartphone, which I tend to use, and my wife knows that, very little, only for phone calls when I keep it on, which is also very rare. But the thing is that we need to understand that those all communities understood that following a more traditional way of life will in the end times protect them from all this evil. So I think that is what these communities have. And thank you so much for this question today. As you can see, we have sometimes callers, but they call in maybe another time and then they become interesting callers, they make interesting questions. So maybe, you know, one day they can have a more trollish attitude, the other day they can have a less trollish attitude. And we hope all our callers can be less trollish and more constructive in their approach.
Most of the time.
Yeah, most of the time. Well,
we always get great calls all the time.
Yes, we just had the last. This somebody here is calling you, not from the United States. Where are you calling from? Hello there. Where are you calling from? This was. I don't know. This was plus 30. Yeah, you don't think so? I don't know. Let's see from where it was, because this phone. Okay. Welcome to the Leo Zagami show. Where are you calling from?
Oh, I'm calling from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Welcome from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Great. Okay, so I think did we have past Tulsa? Okay.
Hello.
Okay, welcome to the show.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
What happened to the girl?
I don't know what happened.
Hello?
Okay, here it seems like I have just a second. You hear me? Do you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes. Where are you calling from?
From Northern California, Vacaville, Northern California. My name's Frank, and I found out about you when you did an interview with Tim Alvarino.
Ah, welcome. We did a great interview with Tim. He's an old friend of mine. He came to Rome and we had a lot of fun together, but also some very incredible episode that happened. I'm going to try to do something here. There is another phone caller that was trying to call. You still online? Hello? Are you still online?
Hello?
Hello? Who am I talking with?
You're speaking with Sean from Detroit.
Okay, here we have a bunch of. I don't know. We have
happened to Tulsa in Northern California?
I don't know. We have seen so many calls that we have jammed with callers. So
you can't do this. You have to take one at a time.
Okay, but please give us a question or tell us what you think of our show. So at least we can get it right.
Yeah, you got wrong today, yo.
I love the show, and me and my wife are big fans.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Any questions for us today?
Yeah, I'm wondering, what are you thinking about the consecration of Russia coming up this week? I think you touched on it last week, but I didn't hear too much about it.
And I think the Pope has something up his sleeve. What do you think?
Yes, I actually wrote 2 articles that you can find on leozagami.com. I suggest you immediately go and check them out because they are very much detailed. And he's trying to protect his own life because for a number of years we were told after the official publication of the third secret in the year 2000 that that white bishop was John Paul II. Instead, it seems like a white bishop, especially because he likes to call himself bishop and not pope, was actually Pope Francis. And if you go by what is written, even in the official version, which of course it's purged of some elements, which were then made known by Father Malachi Martin. I also published an article about that, and I published a video on the Zagami on one of my channels about that. So I think that you will definitely find all your answers in these articles without me now having to repeat myself. But I will simply say that the Pope is very scared and that he knows that if the third secret, even the part that was already revealed, comes to life, meaning him walking amongst the dead bodies of his priests, of his bishops, of his cardinals in a bloodbath and in a destroyed city of Rome, well, he wants to avoid that. He definitely wants to.
I totally concur.
But I don't
with you
think. But I don't think that him and the people at the moment in charge of the Vatican can consecrate anything to anything. Okay, so whatever they're doing on the 25th of March in 6 days is not going to work out, unfortunately, because they're Satanists. So too late for that. Too late for going on the good side when you know very well that this Pope is evil. But especially for what I wrote here regarding the Pact of the Catacombs and everything behind it, we know that he is part of this great reset. So this consecration is simply part of the great show that is unfolding of the end times. Thank you so much for calling in.
Well, we hope to see you in Detroit sometime and throw a house party with you.
I guess that's good, especially in Detroit. Thank you so much. And of course, we are taking more calls, one after the other. It's never ending. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. Where are you calling from? Hello? 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 Then we lost the caller.
Maybe it's a heavy breather.
No, it's just I don't know. We lost the caller, or we see. Just a second. We're not gonna put it back together. Just a second. Siri, don't worry about it.
I know it's Siri today.
Well, no, it just appeared. My artificial intelligence went on. My Skype went off. The lines went off. Guys, sorry for that. The lines are back on. So please, any guess on Antichrist Pope? Well, that's an interesting question. I think that if you read my books, you know what I think of this Pope. He's the false prophet. Regarding the Antichrist, I don't think that this Pope is necessarily the Antichrist, but it's definitely the false prophet. And you need the false prophet in this Trinitarian Satan. Hello there. Who's that? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Leo. This is Savina. Hello.
Hello, where are you calling from?
I am near Italy, near Croatia and Slovenia. So I'm from your area. That's why it was so hard to call in.
Okay. So you like the show? You enjoy it?
Yes, and I have a very serious question. So what is your prediction for this area, like the former Yugoslavia area, Italy area, with the nuclear situation regarding Russia and Ukraine? What is your prediction? Is it safe here or not?
You're talking about Italy?
And this Croatia, Slovenia area, like Bosnia,
yes.
this whole area of ex-Yugoslavia.
Okay, perfect. I think it's not safe. It's not safe. We have just seen the other day a drone arriving from Ukraine to Croatia. I think that, of course, you are very close to a war zone that might expand very soon. and that might. I mean, we know that what happened back in the year 1999 in Belgrade was also a very much an important moment for Vladimir Putin on, you know, on what NATO did to Yugoslavia, to the former Yugoslavia. Now, I think that you have to understand the next move will be probably Moldova, and that means getting closer and closer, and then even Romania might be destabilized because they seem to have some internal problem. So I think that you should definitely leave Europe altogether and go to Mexico. Sorry if I say that.
Yeah, I basically came from there. So one question, you say you think about leaving. When do you think is the time to leave? Is it like right now, or is it in the next year, or
I think that you should leave in the next couple of months maximum, because they are trying to limit the air travel, and the cost of the air travel will go up the roof and will be then unreachable for you. What are you going to go? You're going to have to come with a boat, like maybe the people 100 years ago were taking a ship. Because the thing is that now, and this is another topic I want to discuss today, but then in the whole, is the fact that they are starting to discuss even reducing the speed limits on the highway, reducing the possibility of traveling more than a certain amount of airplane tickets purchased in a year, to limit, because it's all interconnected also with what they perceive as climate change and all that bullshit. But it's also connected, of course, to the escalation in the price of oil. So I think that we need to move fast here. If you are thinking of,
so if you would be in this region, you would go before winter. You would try to go before winter.
Absolutely.
Out of this region.
Absolutely. Also, because the situation will get more tense here. Russia is threatening, of course, for example, Italy with retaliation, and that means cutting the gas supplies. They will not do that only in Italy. They will do it for other countries. Of course, I don't know, where do you live currently?
Yeah, like we just came from Mexico, but we are between Croatia and Slovenia. Okay,
so Croatia and Slovenia, it's an area that definitely could have some problems, especially because you will have problems in the distribution of grains, of flour from Russia, from Ukraine, as you know. So the prices will.
I know this. Yeah. But what do you think about the nuclear threat specifically? Do you see that as a problem?
No, I see it as a problem.
Supplies?
No, I think as a problem, not as missiles. I think as a fallout from what they call nuclear tactical weapon that might be used in Ukraine or in other countries or in Moldova or whatever during the expansion of this invasion. Because at one point or the other, if, for example, Zelensky doesn't give up, Putin is gonna use a tactical nuclear weapon. What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything if you are far away, but if you are in Slovenia or around the corner from there, between Croatia and Slovenia, it's not very much distance from there to Ukraine. And so you get a nuclear cloud that is like Chernobyl. Now, I mean, it depends from how healthy you want to stay. But definitely, you are very close.
Can I ask, like, the last question? Thank you so much for everything that you do. And, like, where do you think are the safe places in the world for the next couple of years? I know you say communities, right?
Yeah.
But where these communities should be based?
Yeah.
What's your
one of
about that? I know I'm very specific.
No, but it's no problem. I think one of the most ideal places to go is Mexico, because it's a neutral country at the moment. It hasn't sided with Russia or America. In case of a full-on nuclear thermal warfare, whatever, it will actually stay out of the map. Though, of course, it will get some of the. The winds blow, the radioactivity doesn't stay in one place necessarily, but still, Mexico is a huge country, many different states. Of course, you have to understand that Mexico is a place that you need to know a little bit because you want to go in the areas that are more safe.
You know to know where.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it seems like you already been there, so you maybe know already the area, the ideal place for you and for your loved ones. I would suggest also, of course, other countries in South America, but other people are suggesting Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile. But the problem here is that politically, these countries are a lot more unstable.
Yeah.
Argentina is in a full-on economic crisis, a very bad one. You have, of course, some of these countries that might be too close to Russia, and that might, when you talk about Uruguay, then you have to understand that there is a lot of political turmoil going on in these countries. But, of course, they might be safer, definitely, than being where you are. I mean, anywhere would be safer than being a few 100 kilometers from where it's happening. I mean, how many kilometers are you in air from Ukraine?
Yeah,
how
it's like a 2-hour flight. It's a 2-hour flight.
No, but it's very close for a nuclear explosion. 2 hours flight is once you have an accident, you are very close. So I don't want to be alarmistic here, but if the conflict goes on, it's better to take the precaution to leave Europe altogether. And I said that also to a lot of people in Italy, not only people living where you are. You are even closer, but I mean, if then this becomes a full-on war with NATO, then it will become a problem for everybody, of course. But you are particularly in an area which might be touched by the conflict, especially after.
What would be for us living in this area, for you, like the last alarm that would be like, this is a sign that you need to go immediately? Would it be if like Poland would start to interfere? I mean, NATO would start to interfere, or you are just like, leave now, or you're like, wait for this event and then go? You know what I mean?
I think that if you see the invasion of Moldova, then at that point you should leave immediately.
Okay, thank you so much. It's really helpful. It's not great news, but it's honest news, and this is what we need in these times. Well,
I'm trying to just give you my honest opinion. I think this war is not going to end. I think that, of course, it could arrive in NATO territory and then become even worse. But already, as the situation is unfolding now, it will limit us from a lot of things, and so our style of life will also be limited. So if you have now a plane ticket that costs $500,000, in 2 months it will cost $3,000-4,000, and you will not be able to then fly to Mexico, to anywhere else. Okay.
And do you see, like in your predictions, like the nuclear situation will happen like soon, or you think this will be their last resort that like Putin or NATO will use? Or you think, or you see nuclear situation
I don't see NATO.
Happening soon?
I don't see NATO as using nuclear, because NATO is fortunately, in a way, it's a series of armies in the hands of a bunch of transgenders. If we have to be really honest about it, they are just a bit too gender fluid, too pending the other way to be aggressive enough to throw a nuclear weapon. That's not going to happen. It's going to happen, of course, in retaliation. That would be a disaster. But definitely, I would say there is the possibility instead that Putin grows increasingly angry about the situation on the ground in Ukraine. And at that point, just like the Americans did in World War II with Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when Japan didn't want to bow down in any way to America, they then had these 2 bombs, and look what happened later. Boom, turn around, and everybody became best friends, and now nobody remembers even that Japan was an enemy of America, because 2 bombs, the psychology of seeing the destruction of 2 nuclear bombs.
Didn't they blow up Pearl Harbor first?
Yeah, but Pearl Harbor wasn't a nuclear bomb. Pearl Harbor was an attack made with planes, a couple of thousand, whatever. Now, here we're talking about a whole city that were completely raided. And so that is the, as a military, and today Putin loses the 5th general in combat. The 5th general in combat. That is a very bad sign for Putin. Okay?
Yeah, it is bad.
A bad sign for Putin, is a bad sign for his project. And how is he going to react? How is he going to react? We don't know that. He's going to take, of course, this war on the ground until it's possible. But we know also that he has problems because this army which he has put together at times is showing, of course, new $1 million kind of equipment, but they haven't been able at times to keep them updated, to keep them on the ground. So there is now in English, I don't know, approvisionment, I don't know how you say it in English, but there is some problems on the ground. And if he sees that there is, of course, a possibility of losing 50,000, 100,000 soldiers, at that point, of course, the calculation that you do is a very cold calculation. You say, okay, boom, I'm going to nuke this city, raid it to the ground, knowing also that the Soviet era stations in the underground of Kiev are nuclear proof. People don't know that, but all the train stations in Moscow, in St. Petersburg, in Kiev, in the big cities of the former Soviet Union were built to withstand a nuclear attack. So, he knows that the people of Kiev could go underground and survive, but their city will be completely destroyed. So it's a very.
I also heard that he is moving all his people from Moscow towards this Ural Mountains in the bunkers. I don't know.
No, I think that is basically taking all the area of the former Soviet Union, no, but also those countries that then were part of the Soviet bloc. So we could be seeing then, of course, if for any reason he goes into NATO territory, then he will go and take everything that used to be under the sphere of influence of the Soviet Union. We're talking about Poland, we're talking about, of course, also part of the Soviet Union, like the Baltic states, Bulgaria, Hungary, and then down Romania, and everything that was under the sphere of influence of the Soviet Union would be put again under the sphere of influence of his idea of Russian empire. Now, I don't necessarily side with one or the other, though I can't side with Ukraine simply because they are financed by George Soros. Their idea of society is a wrong idea of society, though this aggressiveness of Russia is very hard to digest for everybody, for peace-loving individuals that have been brought up in this day and age. We need to understand here that at stake is also the future of the faith in the mind of the Russian people, because the Orthodox Church was taken out of their control of the Ukrainian Church. That is a big thing. In 2019, the Ukrainian Church declared themselves autocephalous, independent, and passed under the control of Bartolomeo I down in Istanbul, in Constantinople. So that is very bad, because the religious heart of Russia is born in Ukraine. So what are you going to do? You're going to take it off and give it to Istanbul, to Constantinople, to the Greek Orthodox Church? It's really a bad thing that happened. So I think the consequences, regardless of what the Pope might do with, like I said in the earlier call, the consecration of to the Immaculate Heart of Mary, I think this is an unstoppable war, and that if the West doesn't find a mean to really dialogue with Putin, with dialogue with Russia in a proper diplomatic way, then the war is going to escalate, and we're never going to see the end of it. So I don't think that we will ever be able to go back to the relationship with Russia we had before. I think that for the next 30 to 40 to 50 years, we are basically going to see the same kind of Russia we saw during the Soviet Union. A very much closed setup, but this time allied with China. And we will not be able to fight the same war with Russia than we fight with China that we fight with Russia, because China is going to completely destroy our supply chains, and we are going to be left in complete poverty here in the West. So it's about time that real diplomacy starts working, but unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the case.
And Europe will be in the biggest problem.
Yes,
Europe will really, yeah.
Europe war zone is a war zone. So Europe is a war zone. We can't do really much about it. For the people who want to survive all this, for their families and for their future, I would suggest to leave now and to come here on this side of the world. Possibly is the best thing, because if you go, for example, in Asia, you're going to end up instead with what's going to happen after the confrontation with Taiwan, which is another mess, even if you go to Australia, for example. Thank you so much for calling in. We have another...
Thank you so much. Thank you for both of you.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the Leo Zagami Show. This is going to be the last call today. Hello there. Who are you calling? Sorry, who are you calling? Who are you calling? Of course, you're calling me.
Leo, good to see you. I'm calling from upstate New York.
Upstate New York. Okay, we seem to had some confusion before with the phone line. Sorry. Do you have any questions for us, and do you enjoy our show?
Yes, I enjoy your show. You're very well read on the whole Illuminati thing, and I appreciate all that you do. And I have two questions. I've been doing a lot of research here. Have you ever read the book, it is called Devil Worship in France and the Question of Lucifer?
The author, please.
The author, I'd have to go on the internet to find that.
The Worship in Paris. I think I have read this book.
It was written in 1908.
Yes, I think I read this book. Please remind me the author, because I think I read that book a few years ago. It's a book that sprang out of all these people, like, for example, Leo Taxil, and then the anti-Masonic movement kind of picked up from there. And there was this. But please tell me the author, otherwise, because I remember there was also another interesting book, The Dragon, in that period. There would be.
If you got some time, I'll be able to find it. But I did want to, I wanted to read a certain part of this book about some secret technology, and I wanted your input on that. If you have ever heard such a thing.
Okay.
All right. Let me find it here. It's titled "The Devil and the Doctor." It's part of that one thing. It says, Mr. Galatine Macri exhibited his Arcula Mystica, one of 7 similar instruments existing at Charleston, Rome, Berlin, Washington, Monte Carlo, Naples, and Calcutta.
Okay, A. White, yes. Now I think that... I think I know. I think you know which author you might be referring to. Arthur Edward White, I think it was.
Okay, let me finish here. It says, to all appearances, it resembles a liquor stand, but it is really a diabolical telephone, worked like a Urim Phenomena, and enabling those who possess it to communicate with each other, whatever the intervening distance.
Let's remind our Yes, let's remind our viewers that the guy who wrote this, who was, by the way, a Freemason, Arthur Edward Waite, died in 1942, was an American-born British poet and scholarly mystic who wrote this book, Devil Worship in France, or The Question of Lucifer, and he was rather accurate about a number of things. What you are mentioning here could be regarding the future and the smartphone that we all have now, no? Because it seems like for back then, that invention was pretty impossible to even know exist in any way. But what you're saying is very well. I mean, if you relate it to the phone that we have today, it seems like he was right, spot on. No, so thank you so much. This was a very interesting thing you pointed out, and I guess
it works. It works through quantum communication and through like the nodal points on the planet. It'll only work on the nodal points of the planet.
Was this written inside the book?
Oh no, not the part I just said, but from my other research.
Okay, but that book definitely is a book that we need to study and maybe analyze in context. I really have to. Sorry if I have to place this call out of reach.
Soon your Italian audience is going to start.
No. We have another show in the Italian language soon, so I need to really, please forgive me, but I have to cut short the phone call here. Otherwise, we will be messing up with my show in Italian that is starting very soon. Rambo is here. Thank you so much for calling in. We have actually a lot of interesting questions, and I wish we had more time because the last one we could analyze a little bit further.
Yeah.
Okay, next time.
Thanks, everyone. See you on Tuesday.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of the Leo Zagami Show with Leo and Christy, live from Palm Springs, California. I know that a lot of people are following us because, yes, it says here 100 or 50 people at the beginning, but then we get all these phone calls, so I don't know. I think
it's not true. I think we have a lot more than
I think we have more callers. I think we have more callers than what they say.
More people.
Yeah? So more people. Yeah, so sorry guys. Okay, I'm pretty much looking forward now to talk in Italian for my Italian audience because at times I don't get it right in English. Unfortunately, I have my wife who corrects me. My wife corrects me. Rambo! Okay. Tune in on Tuesday. Remember, we can be a little bit flexible with the Tuesday show, but we're always going to be on time with the Thursday and Saturday one. At least we will try. Rambo, what do you think? Thank you so much for your support. Please support us also with Fundly, with GoFundMe, with Cash App, if you are in the Great Britain or the United States. This way, or purchasing one of my books, this way we can carry on with our mission. Thank you very much. You are the best.